Let me tell you something that most people never figure out. Most people go through their entire lives working hard, getting up early, staying late, giving their best years to a job, to a company, to a dream, and then they arrive at age 65 with almost nothing to show for it. Not because they didn't work hard enough, not because the economy wasn't fair, not because they didn't have opportunities. They arrive with nothing because they never learned one fundamental thing. They never learned the art of financial discipline. And I want you to hear that word, art. Because financial discipline is not a science. It's not a formula you follow once and walk away. It's an art. It requires practice. It requires repetition. It requires commitment on the days you feel like it, and especially on the days you don't. Now let me ask you something. And I want you to really think about this. If someone handed you $1,000 right now, cash, in your hand, what would you do with it? Most people, if they're honest, would spend it within 30 days. Some would spend it within 30 hours. And that's not a judgment. That's just the truth of where we are as a society. We have been trained to consume, to spend, to upgrade, to impress. And in the process, we have forgotten, or maybe we were never taught, how to keep. You see, the wealthy are not wealthy because they earn more. Many of them started with less than you and I. The wealthy are wealthy because they understand something fundamental, something so simple that when you hear it, you might even be disappointed. They understand that it's not what you make that matters. It's what you keep. Let me say that again, because it deserves to be repeated. It is not what you make that matters. It is what you keep. Now I want to take you back for a moment. Back to a simple time. Back to a conversation I had with a wise old man early in my life. He sat across from me and he said, "Young man, take 10 cents out of every dollar you earn and put it somewhere you won't touch it." I remember thinking, 10 cents? That's it? That's your big wisdom? I thought he was going to give me some complex investment strategy, some secret formula the rich had been hiding. And he just said, 10 cents out of every dollar. But here's what I didn't understand at 25, that I understand very well now. It's not about the 10 cents. It's about the discipline behind the 10 cents. It's about training yourself to live on 90% so that the 10% can begin to work for you. Because money, when it is saved and invested wisely, does something magical. It begins to work. It begins to grow. And one day, one glorious day, it begins to work harder than you do. But you can't get there without discipline. And discipline, my friend, is where most people fall apart. Let me talk to you about what financial discipline actually looks like in practice. Because I think a lot of people have a vague idea that they should be more responsible with money, or save more, or spend less. But those are not plans. Those are wishes. And wishes won't change your bank account. Only decisions will. The first practice of financial discipline is this. You must learn to make a distinction between what you want and what you need. This sounds simple. It is not. Because we live in a world that is specifically designed to blur that line. Every advertisement, every sale, every promotion, its entire purpose is to convince you that what you want is what you need, and they are very good at it. They spend billions of dollars every year studying human psychology, understanding what makes us tick, what makes us reach for our wallets. And they use that knowledge against us every single day. So you must become more intentional. You must sit down, and I mean literally sit down, with a pen and paper, and write out what your actual needs are. Shelter, food, transportation, basic clothing, health. Those are needs. Everything else, every upgrade, every luxury, every nice to have, those are wants. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting things. But you must be honest about what category they fall into. Because when you're honest about what is a want versus a need, suddenly you see where all the money has been disappearing to. And let me tell you something. The wealthy know this distinction very well. In fact, one of the most surprising things about truly wealthy people, the ones who built their wealth, not the ones who inherited it, is how modest they are, how deliberate. They drive reasonable cars. They live in homes that are comfortable, but not extravagant. They eat good food, but they don't eat at the most expensive restaurants every night, just to prove that they can. They understand something the rest of us struggle with. that every dollar you spend is a dollar that cannot grow. And every dollar that cannot grow is a missed opportunity for your future self. Now I want to talk about something a little more uncomfortable. I want to talk about the lifestyle trap. Because this is where most people, good people, hardworking people, get stuck. And they get stuck so gradually that they don't even notice it happening. Here is how it works. You get a raise. You've worked hard. You've earned it. And now you're making more money than you made last year. What happens? In most households, the spending goes up almost immediately. You buy a nicer car. You move to a bigger apartment. You eat out a little more. You upgrade your phone. You take a slightly better vacation. And by the end of the year, you're earning more money than ever before. And somehow still living paycheck to paycheck. Somehow still one emergency away from financial disaster. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the silent killer of financial freedom. The wealthy protect themselves from lifestyle inflation by making a commitment to themselves, a real commitment, not a hope, that when their income grows, their savings rate grows too, not their spending. Their savings. They decide in advance that if they get a 10% raise, at least half of that raise goes directly into savings or investments. Before they see it, before they spend it, before they can talk themselves out of it. Because here is the truth about willpower that no one tells you. Willpower is a limited resource. You have a finite amount of it every day. And every decision you make depletes it just a little bit. So if your financial strategy depends entirely on willpower, on you choosing, every single day not to spend, you will eventually fail. Not because you're weak, because you're human. The secret is to build systems that remove the need for willpower. Set up automatic transfers. Have money move into your savings account before you even have a chance to see it. Pay yourself first. Always, always pay yourself first. Let me tell you what paying yourself first really means. It means that before you pay your landlord, before you pay the electricity company, before you pay anyone else, you pay yourself. You set aside your portion, your future portion, the portion that belongs to the person you are becoming. Because see, every financial transaction you make is a vote for the life you want to build. And most people spend their entire paycheck voting for everyone else's financial future while completely neglecting their own. Now let me address something that I know is on some minds. And that is this. This all sounds great in theory, but I barely make enough to cover my bills. How am I supposed to save when there's nothing left at the end of the month? And I understand that question. I really do. There are people who are genuinely in difficult situations, and I don't want to minimize that. But I also want to be honest with you, because I have seen people with very modest incomes build extraordinary financial security over time. And I have seen people with very high incomes, doctors, lawyers, executives, who are flat broke. Because income is not the problem. Income is almost never the problem. If you feel like there is nothing left at the end of the month, the question is not, how do I earn more? The first question, the more important question, is where is it all going? You must track your spending. Every dollar, every purchase. For at least 30 days, write down everything you spend money on. I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you, that when you see it all written down, you will find money you didn't know you were losing. Subscriptions you forgot about. Small daily habits that add up to hundreds of dollars a month. Convenience purchases that seem small in the moment, but are enormous in aggregate. This is not about being cheap. I want to be very clear about that. This is not about never enjoying your life. This is about being intentional. It's about making sure that every dollar you spend is going towards something that genuinely adds value to your life, not just something that fills a moment of boredom or an impulse of desire. Let me talk to you now about debt, because debt is where so many financial dreams go to die. Not all debt is bad. I want to acknowledge that. There is debt that builds, a mortgage on a reasonable home, a loan that finances a business that generates income. But there is also debt that destroys. And most of the debt that most people carry is destructive debt, credit card debt, personal loans for vacations, car loans for cars you could not afford, buy now, pay later schemes that make you feel rich in the moment and poor for years. Consumer debt is one of the most powerful tools ever created, not for the person using it, but for the people lending it. When you carry a balance on a credit card at 18 or 20 or 25% interest, you are working hard so someone else can get wealthy. You are giving away the fruit of your labor, month after month after month, and getting nothing in return except the temporary pleasure of a purchase you probably already forgot about. If you have consumer debt right now, and many of you do, because we live in a debt-soaked culture, your first financial priority should be eliminating it. Not your next vacation, not the new phone, not the upgraded car. Get out of debt. Attack it systematically. List every debt, smallest to largest. Pay the minimums on everything, and then throw every extra dollar you can find at the smallest debt until it's gone. Then take that payment and attack the next one. Each debt you eliminate frees up more resources to attack the next one. It gains momentum. And momentum, in finances, in health, in life, is one of the most powerful forces available to a human being. I want to talk to you now about the psychology of money, because we don't talk about this enough. We talk about tactics, save this percentage, invest in this account, avoid this type of debt. But tactics without psychology are useless, because your financial behavior is driven by your beliefs. And if your beliefs about money are broken, no tactic will save you. What do you believe about money? Think about that for a moment. What did you hear about money growing up? Did the adults around you say things like, money doesn't grow on trees, meaning money is scarce, hard to come by, difficult to hold? Did they say, rich people are greedy, meaning wealth is somehow morally wrong? Did they say, we can't afford it, so often that your brain began to see poverty as a permanent condition rather than a temporary circumstance? These beliefs, absorbed in childhood, reinforced over decades, run in the background of your financial life, like a computer program you never chose to install, and they dictate your behavior far more than any rational decision-making ever will, until you examine them, until you hold them up to the light and ask, is this true? Is this actually true? The truth is, money is not scarce. Money is abundant. There is more wealth in the world today than at any other time in human history. The truth is, wealthy people are not all greedy. Many of the most generous people on earth are also among the most financially successful. And the truth is, we can't afford it should never be a permanent statement. It should always be followed by a question. So what do I need to do to be able to afford it? See, the poor man says, I can't afford it, and that ends the conversation. The wealthy man says, I can't afford it yet, so how do I get there? That one word, yet, changes everything. It transforms a closed door into a hallway. It transforms a limitation into a challenge. And it tells your brain that your current financial situation is not your permanent financial destination. Let me talk to you now about the discipline of learning. Because here is something I have observed over many decades. The people who are most financially successful are almost always the most financially educated. Not necessarily formally educated, not with university degrees in economics, but educated in the sense that they read, they study, they are always learning something new about money, about investing, about how wealth is built. The average person spends almost no time educating themselves about money. They spend years learning a trade or a profession, studying, training, gaining experience. But they spend almost no time studying the one subject that affects every single area of their life, money. And then they wonder why their finances never improve. Here is a simple discipline I want to suggest. Spend 30 minutes every single day learning something about personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, or wealth creation. Just 30 minutes. Read a book. Listen to an educational program. Study how successful businesses are run. Learn the basics of investing. Understand how compound interest works, really works. Not just the concept, but the actual numbers. Because when you truly understand compound interest, when you feel it in your bones, it changes the way you make decisions today. Let me give you a picture of compound interest that might stay with you. If you take a single penny, 1 cent, and double it every day for 30 days, do you know what you end up with? Most people guess a few $1,000s, maybe 10,000. The actual answer is over $5 million. $5 million from 1 penny in 30 days, simply by doubling consistently. Now, your investments won't double every day. That's not reality. But the principle is real. Small amounts, growing consistently over time, become extraordinary. The problem is, most people never start, or they start and stop. And consistency is everything. I want to address the question of investing. Because a lot of people are afraid of investing. They've heard stories of people losing money. They've seen markets go up and down. They don't understand it, and when we don't understand something, we avoid it. And avoidance, in the world of investing, is extraordinarily costly. Here is the simple truth about long-term investing. History shows, not suggests, but shows, that money invested consistently in diversified assets, left alone over long periods of time, grows. Markets go up and down in the short term. They always have and they always will. But over 20 years, over 30 years, the trajectory is upward. The people who lose in the markets are almost never the long-term investors. They are the people who panic when markets drop and sell at the worst possible moment. Or the people who try to time the market, jumping in and out, thinking they can predict what no one can predict. The disciplined investor does something that goes against every instinct. When markets drop, when everyone is panicking, the disciplined investor sees opportunity. When everyone is buying in a frenzy, when prices are at their peak, the disciplined investor is cautious. Because investing, at its core, is about being rational when others are emotional, about being patient when others are reactive, about playing the long game in a world obsessed with instant gratification. And this brings me back to where I started, the art of financial discipline, because that's what all of this is. Every piece of advice I have shared with you today comes down to one fundamental quality, the ability to delay gratification, to choose future security over present pleasure, to make decisions based not on how you feel today, but on what you want your life to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. This is hard. I will not pretend it is easy. It is genuinely hard to drive a modest car when your friends are driving luxury vehicles. It is hard to skip the expensive vacation when your social media feed is full of people traveling the world. It is hard to put money into a savings account and leave it there when you can think of a dozen things you'd love to spend it on. It is hard to think in decades when our culture is obsessed with right now. But here is the great reward of discipline. Here is the payoff that most people never reach because they gave up too soon. There comes a day, and for those who stay consistent, that day always comes, when your financial situation shifts, when your saved money begins to generate income of its own, when your investments begin to pay dividends, when you wake up one morning and realize that you are not working for your money anymore. Your money is working for you. And that moment, that realization, is one of the most profound and liberating experiences available to a human being. Financial freedom is not about being rich. Let me be very clear about that. It's not about yachts or mansions or private jets. Financial freedom is about having choices. It's about never having to stay in a job you hate because you can't afford to leave. It's about being able to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. It's about being able to give generously to your family, to causes you believe in, to people who need a hand, without wondering if you can afford to. Financial freedom is the ability to live life on your own terms. And that freedom, real, lasting freedom, is built one disciplined decision at a time, not by winning the lottery, not by finding some secret shortcut, not by some brilliant investment that makes you rich overnight. It is built by the unsexy, unglamorous, daily practice of earning well, spending less than you earn, saving consistently, investing wisely, educating yourself continuously, and staying the course when everything in you wants to quit. You can do this. I want you to hear that clearly and take it personally. You, right now, wherever you are in your financial journey, can begin building financial discipline today. Not next month, not after you get the next raise. Today, with the next dollar you earn, with the next purchase you consider, with the next financial decision you face. Ask yourself, every time, is this moving me toward the life I want or away from it? That one question applied consistently, will transform your finances over time. Not because it's complex, but because it's honest. And honesty, clear, unflinching, personal honesty about your choices and their consequences, is the foundation of every great financial turnaround I have ever witnessed. The wealthy are not fundamentally different from you. They are not smarter in all areas of life. They do not have access to information that is hidden from you. What they have, what separates them from the crowd, is a set of habits, practiced daily, that over time produce extraordinary results. And habits can be learned. Habits can be built by anyone who decides that the pain of discipline is better than the pain of regret. Because those are the only two pains available to you in this area of life. The pain of discipline, which is temporary, specific, and under your control, or the pain of regret, which is lasting, pervasive, and impossible to undo. Choose your pain wisely. Start today. Start small if you must. Save the 10 cents from every dollar. Write down what you spend. Eliminate one wasteful expense this week. Read one chapter of one financial book this month. Set up one automatic transfer to a savings account. Take one small step, and then another, and then another. Because the journey to financial freedom is not made in one dramatic leap. It is made in thousands of small, quiet, consistent steps in the right direction. And if you take those steps, if you commit to the art of financial discipline, I promise you this: the life waiting for you on the other side of that discipline is better than anything you can buy with the money you'd spend avoiding it.